Okay, so I'd like to thank you for joining me and also for your patience while we get through these technical difficulties. My name's Breanna Chapman, or preferably Bree, and I'm the Operations Manager at Resilient Services. Resilient Services is a boutique risk and resilience consultancy, and I've been employed and empowered here for almost 2 years. I studied National Resilience at Macquarie University and Crisis Management for Critical Thinkers at the University of Sydney. I also run a team of 6, and of those 6, 5 of us are women, and all of our experiences have been remarkably similar. We've created this webinar series to connect with women who are in crisis and emergency management and/or risk and resilience leadership roles, and for those who are interested in these careers, because there's so very few of us. We're initially looking to hold this forum once per month on the first Tuesday of the month. Our plan is to run these presentations live on Zoom for those of you who appreciate an interactive platform and would like to be involved, comment, or ask questions. We will also be recording this webinar series and disseminating it to those who can't make it to live recordings. Some of the future topics we would like to discuss are the 4 leadership behaviours and being yourself in the fury of battle. But we don't just want topics to be of our choosing. We would like to invite you to send through some topics, questions, or issues for discussion. So email myself or Sam at any time. At this point, I'd like to acknowledge Samantha Taylor and Sammy Harris, who have been instrumental in getting this off the ground. Samantha was actually supposed to be presenting with me today, and perhaps these technical difficulties wouldn't have happened. However, she's unavailable, but I'm sure she'll be able to feature in one of our upcoming webinars. So one of the questions I get asked a lot, besides what do I actually do, is why do I do what I do? Well, I have a passion for crisis and emergency management, and I feel at home in this interesting and challenging space. I'm devoted to personal and professional development. I'm lucky to be employed at Resilient Services, which is a progressive company. We believe in radical candor at Resilient Services, and we have an incredibly supportive team, which has allowed me to confront many new challenges and extend myself in my resilience role. It's our culture that helps us to thrive and succeed, not only professionally, but personally too. Having the kind of support we have allows us the opportunity to innovate and face challenges now and into the future. If you're not sure about radical candor as a culture, I am planning on hosting a webinar on this topic as part of this series, so don't fear, I will eventually explain. But to give you an idea, it's about creating a no bullshit environment. The reason I'm telling you about my passion for this industry and my role is to reinforce the diagram on the screen. My career is honestly the culmination of my passion, my mission, my vocation, and my profession. It's not always easy to figure out what you want to be when you grow up. It took me 30-something years to get here, but here I am, and I love it. And I want more women to find that same culmination of their passion, their mission, their vocation, and their profession. The old adage is definitely true. If you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. So you might be wondering why we've put together this webinar for women in resilience leadership. Well, to be honest, we've put this forum together to help women within resilience leadership roles. I want to challenge myself and you to help each other overcome obstacles that we all may face, and I'm aiming to provide a safe place to discuss these. I want to provide a place where women can openly share their questions, their ideas, their stumbling blocks, their frustrations, and their successes with like-minded contemporaries. Somewhere we can all go, all listen to, a network we can lean on to speak candidly about our own experiences and also discuss interesting topics, listen to guest speakers, and learn. This is something I will definitely need your feedback on. While I have a few topics I'm excited to introduce, as I mentioned before, I also want to know what you would like to hear about, what interests you. So don't hesitate to contact me with your ideas, questions, and concerns. I'm also here to improve, learn, and incite discussion. This webinar series is for women, by women. So let's get started on today's topic. Why women? Why now? As women, we face many stumbling blocks in our careers, from the gender pay gap, breeder bias, male privilege, or just being viewed as inferior or too emotional or uncommitted because of our gender. We've historically held support roles, and while this has changed over the preceding decades, this inherent bias about our abilities is something we will all face at one time or another. The emergency and disaster management and resilience industries have historically been a male-dominated industry and predominantly filled with those from an emergency services or military background who have little experience with corporate culture. Many women leaders ask themselves the question, why am I the only woman at the table surrounded by male executives? How many women leaders are there in your organization? Women are overwhelmingly made to feel like they don't belong in their leadership roles. We are here today to ensure that you do feel like you belong, that you know you are deserving, and maybe even give your career another purpose. Your skills, strategy, tenaciousness, and intuition are part of what makes you successful in your role. And we would like to see you all become mentors and examples for other women who may already have dreams to be future leaders, and even those who don't yet know it's possible. In today's society, women only hold approximately 35% of leadership roles within the corporate sector, and that's according to the Network of Executive Women. These numbers are predicted to drop dramatically by 2027, with women only holding 15% of leadership roles if changes to corporate culture aren't made now. Women are leaving their executive roles at staggering rates. And one of the reasons is that they're not feeling supported throughout their journey by the company by which they're employed. Have you ever felt like this? I know I have. If the predictions are correct, and we're looking at 15% female representation in leadership roles within the next 7 years, we have to believe we can do something to change this and recreate the culture in workplaces to one that encourages and supports women in their executive roles before we end up back in the 1970s. In the Female Leadership Crisis Report, it also mentions that only 6 out of 10 women are receiving corporate stretch roles and breadth of experience necessary to be in contention for higher positions of responsibility and/or authority. Only half have a defined career path, making it almost impossible for a lot of women to even request appropriate projects to help them attain their goals. Women are not being asked where they want to be in 5 years, nor are they being helped to get there. If we can help our own companies adopt a better culture, support women, and encourage their growth, then women would be staying in their roles, and businesses would find they would be performing better than they are now. For us, it is important to not only allow, but encourage women to grow, succeed, and progress through the business and reach, then maintain the executive level to create more equality in the corporate sector. It is a chance to shape the future for ourselves and for the next generation. Why are we discussing this in a webinar that is supposed to be about women and resilience leadership? Well, female representation in resilience leadership is worse than in most industries. Most of the facts and figures I have presented today decline even further when the focus is placed on those in resilience, emergency, and disaster management. As I have mentioned, this industry has been dominated by men from emergency services or military for too many years. And whilst it's true that in recent times, companies have also been recruiting for resilience roles from more diverse backgrounds, such as risk, health, and legal, it remains that men make up such a large percentage of the industry. Men whose focus throughout their careers has been response, ignoring or at best minimizing the other elements of the emergency management cycle. The Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction states that gender should be integrated and considered in all disaster policies and practices, and leadership by women should be promoted. Yet in Australia, few emergency management guidelines mention gender beyond a token reference. In fact, Australia only ranks 36th in the world for gender equality. If we look at gender and emergency management guidelines, a literature review, we can see that senior leadership in emergency services organisations and community recovery committees are dominated by men. In Victoria, 72% of fire and emergency roles are held by men, and 80% in corresponding leadership positions are men. 80%, that's a big number. When it's time for these men to leave the emergency services, so many do so to undertake emergency and crisis management roles in the corporate sector. This is exactly why there's so few women in resilience leadership roles. If resilience leaders continue to be recruited from emergency services and military backgrounds, the gender bias inherent in these organisations will continue to translate to our underrepresentation, and so much of the emergency management cycle will continue to be underestimated and ill-considered. This is not only an issue for our gender, it is an issue for recovery and for the community at large. Contemporary and emerging models of emergency management focus on the human rights of the members of a community as key to the recovery of that community. If resilience leaders are men whose main focus is response, are we not intrinsically impinging on the rights of the community? In the Women Matters 2009 edition, they discuss the different qualities that men and women show in crisis leadership roles. Men tend to apply more of the control and corrective actions, along with the individualistic decision-making behaviours, which are inherent in the command and control structures of military and emergency services. Whereas women tend to apply more of the people development, expectations and rewards, alongside role model behaviours. Women also tend to show more inspirational and participative decision-making behaviours, which we have learned throughout our lives as we negotiate the biases we face. These traits and so many more women can bring to leadership roles, making them incredibly successful and progressive leaders for their companies and their communities. Throughout our careers as women, we have faced many challenges just because we are women. We've been pushed aside, belittled, left out, and undermined. I have actually been told that I will never be taken seriously because I have blonde hair. I've also been informed that because I have breasts, no one will pay attention to me when I speak. And then in the same breath, that I use my breasts to my advantage to get what I want. I'm sure most of you have heard similar over the years, and not only from men. However, have you ever heard a man be criticised like this? I haven't. I also haven't heard men being degraded or objectified in my workplaces. I haven't seen higher-ups cap a man's potential simply because of his gender. We, as women, are routinely held back and don't have the same opportunities to reach the top of the executive chain. In most circumstances, that has nothing to do with our professional merits. If we want to encourage, train, and retain more women execs, then the narrative about women in the workplace needs to change, and more women need to start backing women. Let's also just digress for a moment and acknowledge that we don't just suffer gender bias in our professional lives. It also creeps into our personal lives a lot of the time. Women are overwhelmingly still the ones who stay home and look after the children and the household while the men go to work. This particular gender bias is supported by time use surveys by the Australian Bureau of Statistics. In a previous relationship, I was told that if we were to have children, I was not allowed to work. I had to stay home, care for the child, and clean house until said child went to school. Can you see why that relationship failed? Are you also expected to be everything to everyone? Why am I bringing up home life? Because this bias also infiltrates our workplaces. While we're of childbearing years, we're seen as being unreliable because the expectation is that we'll soon need to take time off to get married, have children, raise children. And if we do have children, then we're unreliable because we have to take leave at short notice if they get sick. I do understand why this bias exists. When a child does get sick, it is overwhelmingly women who leave work to tend to children. Even today, our role is still seen as the primary caregiver. So many women report family responsibility discrimination, or FRD, in the workplace. Women with children are most likely to encounter FRD. They are 79% less likely to be recommended for hire, 100% less likely to be promoted, and generally offered at least 10,000 less in salary for the same position as a similarly situated male. But why is this still relevant in today's society? Have the last few months not been a lesson for companies who have this antiquated thinking? Most of us have been working from home, juggling the stresses of our work and home life interweaving, and most of us have done it brilliantly. Embracing flexibility in the workplace has got to be the first step in kicking these biases to the curb. I've shared some of our experiences that may resonate with you to show that you're not alone. If you feel comfortable to do so, I'd now like to hear from you. Tell me why you've joined us today, what, if anything, you're hoping to gain from this webinar, or share an experience, positive or negative, from your career. Carol or Louise, would anyone like to join in? Hi, Louise.
Hi, how you going?
Good, I'm so sorry for before, and thank you for your patience.
That's fine, and I can help you, like promote the next ones to women in my networks too. I think just given that it's school holidays, lots of them aren't around. So
yes, absolutely.
But, no, that definitely could have been me telling exactly that story. So
I think unfortunately it's way too common for not just our industry but all industries, but
that's
particularly
right.
for you. You're with the CFA, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So my background was agriculture. So I worked in, I guess, animal health, and then in a small landholders program, and then I ended up in DELP in forest fire management. But I managed the recovery after the escape burn at Lancefield, and from that, so I guess I got quite burnt out and quite anyway, it wasn't career progressing.
No.
So I've moved across to CFA. So I'm on my third year of leave without pay from DELP to work. It's a multi-agency role basically, but sitting in CFA. So it's real change management.
Fabulous. And is there something in particular you'd like to get out of this series?
I'll have a think and make some suggestions. I think just the opportunity for people to share their own stories too. I've actually done train the trainer in gender and disaster, like family violence after natural disasters. Yeah, wow. So that's quite interesting too. I don't know if you've seen the gender and disaster hub.
I have done some reading on that, Louise, and I would love to take this offline and discuss perhaps having you guest present for us on that one topic.
And there's I guess there's Deb Parkinson too, who's I guess the guru of these things, and a couple of other good people in that space too. But I guess recovery and resilience are kind of my passions, and the well-being of people working and volunteering in them.
Yes, definitely.
But then I guess my role now is at the kind of the other end, so community development type role with high fire risk communities.
Oh, wow. Okay. No, that's very interesting. I know that Sam Taylor was actually looking forward to meeting you. Her partner is part of the CFA.
Right.
So I think she was looking forward to a bit of discussion, but I'll make sure to tee something up when she's back.
Yeah. Is he a volunteer or an employee?
A volunteer.
So I guess that's what we've had in the last couple of weeks too. So the fire services reform, all the operational staff went over to Fire Rescue Victoria, and yeah, so it's been challenging.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
All right, well, again, thank you for joining me. Carol, is there anything you'd like to share? Nope. Okay, let's keep moving. Oh, there we go.
I was having trouble unmuting.
That's fine.
I'm in a mostly female-dominated industry, but the other thing I'd just like to say is not just put to the background if you're blonde, but if you're a bit older too. So perhaps that's something else that you might want to
definitely,
definitely.
Age bias is something that we're all going to face, unfortunately, and I understand that it is incredibly frustrating for women and men who are in their senior years trying to get roles or progress through their careers, because it's similar to what we always face, where they're not seen as being able to commit for long periods of time, so they get overlooked even though they've got many, many years of experience in most cases. No, thank you for sharing that, Carol. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's definitely true. So if you're young in your, so I've had people in my field say, oh, well, we'll get a woman to represent. What, a young woman doesn't really necessarily represent all women. Yeah, like we all have, different challenges at
absolutely
whatever stage of our life. Yeah, so
absolutely.
I'm finding it works now, being a mother of 3. Yeah, and I guess I'm heading towards middle age.
Aren't we all on the fastest train? No, I definitely understand.
I'll mute myself again.
All right.
Thank you.
So moving on, as women, we understand that diversity, acceptance, and representation in the workplace are important for all. We tend to enter at the bottom tier and work our way up through dedication and brilliance. Ask yourself, if you were to leave your current workplace, is there someone who could step in and do all of the things that you know how to do? And would they do it as well as you? What critical processes would be at risk if you left, or if another female leader within your organisation left? Knowledge retention is one of the keys to an organisation's resilience. There is a breadth of knowledge that is lost with every resignation. So if managers and executives, women or not, are continuously leaving and being replaced, this only compounds the loss of knowledge problem, which compounds the problem for your CEO, your board, and your future. Women and men also have different ways of thinking, different ways of seeing problems, different ways of tackling problems, different ways of dealing with people, different ways of facilitating and presenting, and different ways of communicating. Embracing these differences and deferring to expertise before, during, and after a crisis will see any organisation well placed to prepare for, manage, and recover from any crisis. If everyone thinks the same way, potential obstacles will be overlooked. Potential improvement opportunities will face the same fate. Groupthink becomes an insurmountable hurdle and leads to risks being realised within an organisation. If you ever do find yourself in a position where you're lobbying to change some of the things we've discussed today, these are potentially some of the most powerful arguments you can use to convince men that women and their knowledge are highly valuable to their organisation. So enabling changes that support and encourage women in their careers and their career progression is essential to resilience. Addressing an organisation's underlying issues that drive turnover will have a huge impact on retaining and encouraging more female executives. Given the underrepresentation of women in our industry, this is arguably even more important for us. We need to stop our sisters, our colleagues, our friends from having to walk our path. We need to blaze a new one for them. We need to advocate for ourselves and for each other. We need to educate ourselves and those around us, and we need to share our experiences And we need to help each other, drive each other, and give each other a leg up. Now, I promise I'm almost done, and I thank you for bearing with me. But before I go, I'd like to tell you a little about the company that has allowed and encouraged me to create this passion project, to become an advocate for women in resilience leadership. Resilience Services is a progressive organisation. Women are integral to our operations and our success. And as I've mentioned before, of a team of 6, 5 of us are women. I really didn't want to leave you all with the impression that I'm dissatisfied in my current environment. It is actually being so comfortable in my current environment that has given me the confidence to speak out about what I've experienced and seen elsewhere. So thank you for joining me today. I hope you've taken something from your experience here, and I'd love to see you all in 1 month's time. Please send me some feedback using the contact information on the screen. I am new to facilitating webinars, as you might be able to tell, let alone topics about empowering women. So this is really just a culmination of my thoughts, my feelings, and my passion. I'd like to know your thoughts on today and how I can improve tomorrow. Thanks again. Bye.